There is a rumor that haunts the corridors of power in Western capitals. It's a quiet whisper, a chilling story told only in secure briefing rooms and encrypted communications. The story is about a map, not just any map, but a single, vast, and terrifyingly detailed chart hidden deep within the archives of Moscow. This is not a map of what Russia is, but of what it intends to be. It's said to hold the key to Europe's future, a blueprint for a new world order, drawn not with ink, but with the cold, hard logic of geopolitical dominance. This is the Kremlin's map. Its existence suggests that the borders we know, the alliances we trust, and the peace we take for granted are built on foundations far more fragile than we dare to imagine. The story begins not with a bang, but with a series of unsettling coincidences. A fragment of intelligence from a defector, a cryptic comment from a Russian diplomat. Over decades, these scattered puzzle pieces have formed a disturbing picture. Analysts at NATO headquarters. The origins of this map are buried deep in the paranoia of the Cold War. It was born in the aftermath of World War II, a time when the Soviet Union saw enemies on every horizon. The world was divided into two camps, and Joseph Stalin, a man who trusted no one, demanded a complete and total understanding of the battlefield that was Europe. He wanted more than just standard military charts showing roads and bridges. He wanted a map that captured the continent's soul, its vulnerabilities, its historical grievances, and its strategic pressure points. This was to be the ultimate tool for a state obsessed with control and expansion, a project that would outlive Stalin himself and become a crown jewel of Soviet intelligence. The task fell to the main directorate of geodesy and cartography, working under the direct and menacing oversight of the KGB. Soviet cartographers were already the best in the world, producing maps of a detail and accuracy that were unmatched. They had secretly mapped the entire globe, including detailed layouts of American and European cities that were far superior to what was publicly available in the West. But this new project was different. It was not just about geography. It was about geopolitics. Teams of historians, economists, and intelligence analysts were assembled to contribute layers of information that went far beyond physical terrain, creating a document that was as much a political weapon as it was a geographical tool. The KGB's involvement transformed the project from a simple mapping exercise into something far more sinister. For the infamous intelligence agency, information was power, and this map was to be the ultimate encyclopedia of control. The KGB's agents were not just spies. They were collectors of data on an industrial scale. They gathered information on everything: ethnic makeup of small European towns, political leanings of local mayors, structural weaknesses of key bridges, locations of underground utilities. All of this information was fed back to Moscow and painstakingly added to the master map. Layers of strategic intelligence were created that were invisible to the outside world. This obsession with detail was a hallmark of the Soviet system. The state believed that with enough information, any outcome could be controlled. Any society could be manipulated. The map was the physical manifestation of this belief. It wasn't enough to know where a military base was located. The KGB wanted to know its supply routes, the morale of its soldiers, the names of its commanding officers. It wasn't enough to know the layout of a capital city. The most mystifying and alarming feature of the map, according to the few intelligence fragments that have leaked out, is the presence of numerous red-marked areas. These are not random splotches. They are precise, deliberate zones, shaded or outlined in a deep, ominous crimson. Major military bases, naval ports, power plants, communication nodes. This is logical. Any military planner would highlight such targets. But it's the other red zones, the ones that defy easy explanation, that keep Western analysts awake at night. They hint at a plan beyond conventional warfare. Many are centered on cities and towns with no obvious military value. A quiet cathedral city in France, a cluster of villages in the Balkans, a port town on the Baltic Sea known more for tourism than for trade. Why are they marked in red? The annotations are reportedly a coded shorthand, a mix of Cyrillic and cryptic symbols. So far, impossible to decipher. The West's best cryptographers have been stumped. One theory: these red zones mark areas for political destabilization. Dormant separatist movements, populations with historical grievances, communities susceptible to targeted disinformation campaigns. In that scenario, the markings aren't missile targets, but active measures, political warfare. They map the fault lines of Europe. Within the highest echelons of NATO, there is a name for the theoretical strategy behind the map Operation Ghost Lines. It's not an official Russian designation, but a code name by Western intelligence describing the existential threat the map represents. The name captures their fear that Russia has drawn invisible lines across Europe, lines of influence control conflict. These ghost lines connect the red zones, forming a strategic web over the continent. The operation, if real, aims to make these lines the new reality, erasing borders, replacing them with a Moscow-dictated order. The core concept is preemption of conflict, a strategy to win a war before it begins by neutralizing an opponent's ability to resist. By activating assets within the red zones, inciting political unrest, sabotaging critical infrastructure, deploying special forces, Russia could paralyze a country or region in hours. NATO's response would be confused and delayed. The very existence of the Kremlin map highlights a profound and dangerous blind spot in Western intelligence. For decades, the West has focused on tangible, measurable threats: the number of tanks in a division, the range of a missile, the speed of a fighter jet. It has built its intelligence apparatus around satellite imagery, signals intelligence, other forms of technical surveillance. These methods are excellent for tracking troop movements and monitoring military hardware, but they are almost useless for detecting a threat that is conceptual, historical, deeply embedded in a rival's strategic culture. The map is a product of a different way of thinking about power, one that the West has struggled to comprehend. The problem is one of imagination. Western analysts, trained in a culture of liberal democracy and international law, find it difficult to fully grasp the Russian worldview. They operate on the assumption that other nations, for the most part, accept the current international order. The rise of Vladimir Putin to power marked a turning point in the story of the secret map. For much of the 1990s, Russia was too weak and chaotic to pursue the grand ambitions encoded in the document. The map was a ghost of a past empire, its plans seemingly relegated to the dustbin of history. But Putin, a former KGB officer himself, brought with him a deep understanding of Soviet strategic culture and a burning desire to restore Russia's status as a great power. He saw the map not as a relic, but as a priceless inheritance. It is widely believed in intelligence circles that he ordered the project to be fully revived and updated for the 21st century. Under Putin's leadership, the map's purpose was subtly transformed. It was no longer about preparing for a direct, large-scale conflict with NATO, which Russia could not win. Instead, it became a tool for the kind of asymmetric, hybrid warfare that has defined his era. The focus shifted from conventional military targets to the political and social vulnerabilities of the West. The red zones were re-evaluated. A city might no longer be marked because of its proximity to a military base, because a Russian-speaking minority lived there, because it was home to a populist political movement that could be secretly funded and supported. The map became a blueprint for a new kind of war. Recent events seem to follow the map's rumored logic with unnerving precision. We are left with a deeply unsettling question. What if the map is real? If a document laying out the fault lines and future battlegrounds of Europe truly exists in a Moscow vault, then our understanding of the world is dangerously incomplete. The borders we see on our own maps are provisional. The sovereignty of nations is conditional. The peace we enjoy is a temporary illusion. A secret cartography of power has already been drawn over our own. A blueprint for a future decided without our knowledge or consent. This is the ultimate fear. The world has already been redrawn, and we haven't realized it yet. If the map is real, every geopolitical event must be re-examined. Every Russian diplomatic overture, every military exercise, every pipeline deal, each could be a move in a much larger game. The West's tendency to view these actions in isolation would be a fatal error. We would be playing checkers. The Kremlin is playing a three-dimensional chess game on a board of its own design. We may never know if the map is fact or fiction. Its power lies in its mystery. The ghost lines are becoming visible. How much of our world is already defined by a map we cannot see, a map that may have rendered our own obsolete?